Welcome, Sam from Sheridan Computers. It's been a while since I did my last video. I had a couple of issues, but there's been a good reason to do one. pfSense 2.8.0 has been released. If you're installing it from scratch, then you'll need to use the new installer because I haven't found the ISO online like you can do with the 2.7.2. However, I'm pretty sure most people are going to be interested in how to upgrade existing 2.7.2 installations up to 2.8. So I'm going to walk through that right now. I'm going to have a look at the release notes and things that you should be aware of that can bite you in the ass. And then we'll go through and upgrade a system from 2.7.2 to 2.8.0. There's a lot of security fixes, input sanitation, and a really cool new feature for people that are using PPPoE, like us here in the UK, especially with BT. With a new kernel driver for PPPoE connections, which basically improves the speed a lot. Let's dive right in. So this is, you will find time codes below. If you don't want to follow the release notes, you can just jump straight to the installation section, or the upgrade section, I should say. But there's probably a couple of things in release notes that you should be aware of, specifically around FreeBSD boot environments and not copying boot code between devices and things like that. So the reason for me doing this, the very first video that I did was how to install pfSense on a PC Engine's APU2. And there's been a few changes around APU in whether it would work, whether it wouldn't work, going off the release notes. And I needed to test it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do right now.
Sheridan Computers, IT, Communications, Support.
Going through the release notes. So 2.8.0, new features and changes. So upgrade notes and warning. Due to major changes in the PHP and base OS versions, there is a higher than usual chance that packages will interfere with the upgrade process. So this is where generally take a backup, remove your packages, do the upgrade, and then restore the backup, and it should reinstall your packages with all the settings. I have a separate video on that, and I'll link it at the end. So this upgrades PHP from 8.2 to 8.3, I believe, and the FreeBSD base operating system is upgraded from 14 to 15. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that, but hey, it is what it is. So before upgrading, pay particular attention to the pre-upgrade tasks section of the upgrade guide. The most crucial points are noted here, so we'll just go over these now. So a note on the bootloader. This version requires an updated bootloader, which is automatically handled by the upgrade process for nearly all cases. Now, there may be some edge cases where the automatic update does not update the loader properly. For example, if you've got multiple installations on unmirrored disks, and the BIOS EFI firmware is not booting from the disk containing the updated loader, but an old loader is on an installation. So that's kind of an edge case, but something you should be aware of. And it does say one particular case where this can happen is where there is a previous installation to an MMC, for example, MMC, which has been followed by an installation to an SSD without clearing the MMC content. So if your disks are mirrored, you're going to end up with an older bootloader, which you might not be able to boot from. So just be aware of that. Legacy serial console. After upgrading, older devices with ISA-based serial console ports may not fully detect the console due to changes in how FreeBSD probes serial ports, and devices may require manual intervention. So I am connected with a serial device, so we'll check if that breaks. It should be okay. Devices affected by this are primarily older non-EFI hardware running pfSense CE software, such as the APU, which I am running, for example. So we'll take a look and see what happens there. Low memory hardware. So hardware 1 gig or less available memory may have issues upgrading. Especially if you're running ZFS, you should have a minimum of 4 gig anyway. So general notes. PHP has been upgraded from 8.2 to 8.3. The base operating system has been upgraded to FreeBSD 15 current from 14, I believe. This version of pfSense C software includes a new kernel-based PPPoE backend. So if_PPPoE. So that's due to the issues with PPPoE connections, especially prominent here in the UK. Running single-threaded under FreeBSD, which causes limitations on your download speed and things like that. So that has been addressed in the latest version of FreeBSD with this if_PPPoE. It does note that the PPPoE backend is not active by default in this version, but you can enable it under the global option, System, Advanced, and then on the Networking tab. So we'll take a look at that as well. I'm sure many people will be excited about that. And it is definitely a welcome fix for FreeBSD single-threaded PPPoE. So if the backend does not support all advanced features of the MPD implementation, for example, it does not support MLPPP. I'm pretty sure it breaks if you're running a PPPoE server as well. Can't see many people doing that, but just be aware of that. The default state policy has been changed from floating to interface bound for increased security. So this is one to be aware of. Interface bound states may have issues in certain cases with IPsec VTI. So if you're on an IPsec VTI, you might want to flip back to floating. So also multi-one policy routing, route to, reply to, as well as with high availability state synchronization on pfSync on non-identical hardware. So workarounds are in place to fall back to floating states in certain cases, such as IPsec VTI. And I have a video on that. So that's kind of probably going to want pointing out in that. But the default policy can be toggled back to floating using the state policy under System, Advanced, and on Firewall and NAT tab. So there's also the option to override this behavior on a rule basis in advanced options when editing firewall rules. What else do we need? This release includes support for enhanced gateway recovery failback by optionally clearing states from lower tier gateways when more preferred gateway recovers. I've done a video on that as well where that's been an issue, so that's good to see that that's been implemented. This release includes support for high availability in the Kea DHCP daemon. The implementation has several advantages over the older ISC DHCP implementation, including supports high availability for DHCP version 4 and version 6, simplified HA setup, works in hot standby mode, and can synchronize lease data over sync interface for security and ease of use, and can optionally encrypt the sync data for added protection. This release includes support for DNS registration of DHCP client host names from the Kea DHCP daemon to Unbound DNS resolver. Again, another welcome addition. DNS records are updated dynamically on the fly. They do not require resolver restart and are non-disruptive. Support DNS registration for both DHCP version 4 and version 6. DNS registration can be configured on a per interface or global manner with the ability to enable or disable specific interfaces as required. DNS records are not limited to the system domain. DNS registration honors the domain name on the DHCP settings for each interface and on static mappings. DNS records are accurate, updated on both high availability pairs, and static mappings can be registered when Kea starts, similar to ISC, or when starting mapping client obtains a lease. It's not quite as straightforward in the interface. It is like an additional options I believe you have to enter. This release also includes support for DHCP version 6 prefix delegation in the Kea DHCP daemon. So lots of updates to the Kea DHCP daemon. Prefix delegation settings in Kea use different format than the ISC DHCP version 6, so Kea cannot use existing settings for prefix, so be aware of that if you are using that. Settings for prefix delegation must be recreated manually when switching from ISC DHCP v6 to the Kea DHCP v6. And there's links. I'll leave the links to these anyway. Use of the Gandhi dynamic DNS service must be changed. The current API token to a personal access token part, as Gandhi now requires this authentication method for dynamic DNS. So if you're using Gandhi, be aware of that. Security fixes. So these are always welcome. Now these are pretty much all of them require authentication. I might look at these a bit further towards the end of the video, but they do require you to be authenticated in order to abuse them. But the fixes for these security issues are available via the recommended system patches function of the system patches package for users running pfSense C software version 2.7.2. So if you don't want to upgrade, you can use the patches manager to apply these patches. I've also done a video showing you how to install the patches manager and how to use it. So if you need to, I will link that as well. Other pfSense CE aliases and tables allow user-defined rules to utilize built-in system aliases. Fixed interface subnet aliases do not contain IPv6 VIPs. Added system aliases for various reserved networks. Glad they've finally done that. Changed exclude the WireGuard and Tailscale interface group system from aliases and rules. Authentication. So they fixed PHP errors in LDAP server to prevent it from falling back to a local database. And they fixed the GUI logout messages. Do not use the auth log facility. Auto configuration backup. So fixed long configuration revision reasons can cause auto backup prompted to fail. So that's been fixed. Fixed services ACB settings does not fully validate the value of frequency. Use value without encoding. They fix special characters in the ACB configuration description and can cause PHP errors. Again, fixed ACB backup retries to upload backups before the system has finished booting. So there's a few fixes here around backups. They fixed potential cross-site scripting errors in the ACB backup list. Fixed ACB backup schedule. Backups always upload even when the configuration has not changed. So there's a number of good fixes here. Fixed ACB remote revision timestamps may not be unique due to batch uploads. The fixed reset button on the ACB restore tab does not submit the form. Changed the ACB code cleanup and GUI refresh. They've added download function for the ACB entries, and they've added a method to change the ACB device key. And they've also changed the ACB default key generation format. Under backup and restore, they've added support for CD, DVD drives in the external configuration locator. Fixed DHCP leases may not be restored from an older configuration. Fixed PHP errors when generating a notification after detecting a malformed configuration. And skip packages option for configuration backups which fail with large configurations. We've got some CARP changes. Fixed high availability node within the CARP VIP in backup state is unable to ping the active node that uses the CARP virtual IP address. Captive portal has also had some love. So fixed disconnecting a user from the captive portal may allow previously established connections to continue. We've added support for using a mask to block MAC addresses in the captive portal. Fixed old auto added MAC addresses are not pruned for non-concurrent captive portal sessions. The fixed logo load after authenticated redirect. Fixed captive portal zones can fail to start due to ID conflicts. Again, PHP errors that have been fixed with the undefined interface zone list. Captive portal service management via pfSSH.php service fails when the name contains uppercase letters, so that's also been fixed. And create a captive portal zone with uppercase letters overwrites existing zones of the same name. Certificates. They fixed the certificate manager GUI inconsistency in the revocation tab titles. Added certificate authorities created in the GUI do not have the basic constraint extensions marked as critical. And they've changed error handling for invalid certificate configurations. Can't speak. Come on, get it out, Sam. Configuration backend, system proxy credentials with certain characters may fail. So this is all input validation. Console menu, dynamically adjust the interface name maximum width in the login banner. Fix declining to reset the admin account via the console menu, still prompts to change the password. DHCP IPv4. So again, they've added the Kea stuff that we've just been through. So settings for global Kea DHCP server options, better handling of duplication of IP addresses in static assignments, reduce log spam when deleting a static entry, explicitly enable or disable DHCP dynamic DNS updates in each scope. They've fixed an issue with Kea failing to restart due to race conditions between process termination and startup. Important fix. Kea does not allow fully qualified domain names for NTP servers, but does not allow fully qualified domain names for NTP servers, but input validation does not prevent them from being added. Again, more Kea, DHCP HP errors. DHCP sends wrong bootloader file for UFI. Interesting. Kea will not start with identical MAC address filters on multiple interfaces. That's been fixed. They've added the Kea DHCP custom configuration support for IPv4 and IPv6. That's what I believe is just a text box to type your configurations in. They fixed changes in the Kea DHCP interface pools, which may invalidate leased database content. Kea fails to start if the DHCP pool configuration contains default lease time or max lease time. They added the HA support for Kea, DNS resolver to unbound as mentioned, static ARP support, which is IPv4 only. They fixed IPv4 DHCP client responses, which may be routed unexpected out unrelated WANs. Added DHCP leases, added Kea DHCP lease database RAM disk support. Okay. Kea can unintentionally attempt to spawn multiple processes on fail, so good fix there. Excuse me. Continuing on with DHCP, but this time IPv6. So it's fixed an issue with old IPv6 addresses may continue to be used after DHCP or RA changes. Fix a shortcut bar on the DHCP v6 leases, which navigates to DHCP v4 and not DHCP v6. Just a link error. Fixed DHCP version 6 settings page, DNS reverse checkbox not showing current state. And they've added Kea DHCP version 6 prefix delegation support. Under the DNS folder, they've added the option to allow the DNS folder to ignore system DNS servers. They've fixed DNS folder ignores use remote DNS servers, ignore local DNS settings, and changed update DNS master version 2.9. Again, DNS resolver this time. DNS resolver host overrides ignore all aliases if first entry has a domain set but no host name. So these are just minor bug fixes. Apply interface changes may not update default ACLs for the DNS resolver. Potential local file include vulnerability has been fixed via the DNS resolver Python module scripts include mechanism. So these are all, it's worth updating just obviously to get around these fixes, these security issues. Fix local DNS resolution behavior does not add IPv6 name server. We've updated unbound to 1.22. The fixed automatic EDNS value may be lower than expected. Fix unbound configuration file contains local host address in forwarding mode with TLS enabled. And they've fixed unbound check comp files with Python mode enabled. Got some dashboard updates. Fixed firewall logs. The dashboard widget is slow and may fail to update. They've improved the thermal sensors dashboard widget for readability. We've fixed an issue with the traffic graph widget displaying bandwidth usage values, which are half the actual usage amount. I have noticed that. Fixed firewall log dashboard widget update interval does not behave as expected, so just the refresh time. Show current boot method in system information dashboard widget. Fixed incorrect icon on collapsed dashboard widget. Dashboard widgets refresh at unintended intervals. Changed improved thermal sensors refresh code, fixed session cookie warnings, fixed clicking the picture widget image downloads the image with an invalid file name instead of showing it in line. The fix of dashboard widget key values are not validated on the save or load, which can lead to configuration corruption or other problems. Yeah. And they've changed, improved the system load impact on dashboard widgets. So dashboard widgets shouldn't increase the system load as they usually do. Diagnostics, added key information to the status page. Fixed adding wake on LAN entry from ARP table view. Fixed crash reported displays PHP error log without encoding. Added EFI boot information to the status pages. Added loader.conf to LUA contents to status.php so you can see what the contents of that is. Fixed errors in the status page IPsec sections when IPsec is not configured. Fixed sanitized RFC 2136 dynamic DNS update keys in the status output. File browser dialog edit does not encode directory names before display. So these are all good security fixes. State table entries printed on the diag dump states may contain an unexpected interface. They fixed the PHP error from invalid IPv6 addresses on the diagnostics ping. Fixed cannot kill states using the post NAT address. Dynamic DNS. We're going to be here for a while. So they've enabled support for Azure Dynamic DNS, improved Dynamic DNS client IPv6 support, and they've added per instance options to control Dynamic DNS clients and check IP service behavior. Enable support for name.com in Dynamic DNS. Fixed Dynamic DNS uses a default gateway interface instead of the specified interface. Another welcome fix. Added support for LUA DNS provider. Update the Gandit live DNS service with API changes, as we discussed at the beginning of this. Update Dynamic DNS API URL for Porkbun, whoever they are. Fixed Dynamic DNS attempts to resolve entries with disabled interfaces. Fixed RFC 2136 Dynamic DNS cannot update IPv6 A records. Fixed Dynamic DNS IP addresses may not be updated after changing the interface of the Dynamic DNS. And the FreeBSD itself, fixed kernel panic in HA when under high load. I'm sure that's a welcome fix for many. Gateway monitoring. So fixed gateway behavior differs when the gateway does not exist in the configuration. That can cause issues. Fixed the gateway monitoring includes disabled gateways, similar type of issue. And fixed the monitoring IP address for dynamic gateways may be unexpectedly routed via different gateway. And finally, the fixed improved gateway status detection when routed monitoring addresses. Gateways, they fixed killing states on downed gateways, breaks when skip rules when gateway is down is enabled. That I wasn't aware of. Fixed killing states on downed gateways, breaks for static interface configurations. They fixed removing a gateway group used as a default results in no default route, that I have noticed. Change clarify descriptions for gateway recovery options. Fixed saving IPv6 gateway overrides for the IPv4 gateway. Fixed no default routes after boot. So there's a number of reasons to update here, as you can see. Hardware drivers. Fixed newer variant models within the PC Engine's APU2 platform are not recognized, causing garbled early serial console output. And I am using an APU. They've added recognized QAT 4XXX devices in system information widget. High availability, fixed removing a root from the high availability primary node does not remove the entry from the routing table on the secondary node. With IGMP, they've fixed the proxy works intermittently on kernel panic when it gets CIDR removed. IPsec, they've fixed MSS clamping on VPN traffic, does not work on IPsec, IPv6 mobile VPNs. A large number of IPsec tunnels causes long filter reload times. IPsec VTI is not created correctly when using phase 2 remote type of network. Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that either. Also fixed. Cannot figure dual stack IPsec tunnel to accept connections from any remote address on both address families. Fixed. Removing an IPsec phase 1 entry can either remove the wrong phase 2 entries or leave orphan phase 2 entries. I have noticed that a few times. And the fixed change mobile IPsec radius accounting to use accounting requires VIP, so accounting will not activate for non-mobile VPNs. They've added show interface subnet details in a tooltip on the IPsec phase 2 list. The fixed reordering IPsec phase 2 entries may result in malformed configuration. Fixed input validation for duplicate remote gateways does not work when using duplicate phase 1 button. Fixed mobile IPsec does not automatically switch to failover gateway. A fixed mobile IPsec sends incorrect DNS attribute IDs. Fixed firewall generates invalid rules for IPsec tunnels with descriptions containing special symbols. The fixed potential issue with cross-site scripting in IPsec phase 1. The fixed IPsec allows deleting phase 1, phase 2 entries with an assigned VTI. I have run into that. Fixed IPsec unnecessarily prompts to apply changes after input errors. IPv6 RA, so router advertisement. Non-local link IPv6 CARP addresses does not get advertised to endpoints with RA-DVD. Fixed incorrect warning from RA-DVD about advanced reverse DNS lifetime. Fixed RA-DVD service shows stopped in services list when it should be disabled or hidden from the list. Cannot disable router advertisements when the IPv6 configuration is set to none. Kind of makes sense, but fixed router advertisement daemon does not prioritize IPv6 GUA over ULA. Added prefix 64 support in RA. The fixed RA daemon fails to start when it's configured with more than 3 RDNS entries. The installer fixed clean installation using Auto ZFS plus MBR BIOS does not boot. Wasn't aware of that either. Fixed install in ZFS mirror does not format or populate EFI partition on additional disk. That's down to the bootloader, which obviously if your disk fails and you want to boot off the second disk, if the bootloader is not there, it can't boot. Interfaces. They've added MSS and MTU values on the lag VLAN interface, breaks connectivity. Fixed sending IPv6 traffic on disabled interface can trigger a kernel panic. Fix the PHP error when creating queue and queue interfaces. PHP errors when applying interface settings. Obviously the settings are empty. Added use natural sorting when sorting interfaces. They fixed OpenVPN queue and queue interface creation fails. Interface group members are not validated on load or save, so that's been sorted. And the display without encoding. So another security fix. Fixed config access error with no static routes and a config access error after changing an interface from DHCP to static. Lag interfaces. Fixed reconfiguring a parent lag interface breaks its VLANs. And the logging, with the fix restarting the login daemon during rotation also restarts SSH guard, leading to frequent log messages. They have been noticed a lot by a lot of people. Change remove time column from OS boot logs. Change remove time column from OS boot logs. Okay. Added enhanced firewall log action information display and fixed issue more PHP errors when saving system log settings. On the multi-WAN, they've added the ability to selectively kill states on gateway recovery. NTP added NTP authentication support. OpenVPN, so they've added more GUI options for the OpenVPN client-specific override. Added OpenVPN MBDD server options. Fixed OpenVPN Winz option may be visible even when the NetBIOS is disabled. Fix some OpenVPN NetBIOS settings that are kept even when the NetBIOS is disabled, and the fixed OpenVPN NetBIOS node type and scope ID options are not pushed to clients. They fixed an issue where the OAuth user gets stuck at 100% CPU usage when radius authentication times out. The fixed OpenVPN forms invalid root statements for local network, empty local networks. More PHP errors with OpenVPN service certificate verification. OpenVPN wizard failed when VIP is used. We've changed remove deprecated OpenVPN hardware crypto engine option and fixed OpenVPN status page and dashboard widget. One of the things I wish they'd do is fix the OpenVPN client export wizard, because when you do it, it literally just installs the OpenVPN in program files as usual on Windows, and then the configs are in program file config, so they're easily readable by anybody with access to that machine, even without privileged user accounts. So under the operating system, so this is FreeBSD stuff. Fixed rc.local script content is executed at login instead of during boot sequence. Fixed values obtained from sysctl are sometimes unexpected or empty, leading to PHP and other math errors. They fixed static ARP assignments, lose permanent flag in ARP table. Fixed permissions on the tempfs RAM disk for var are too lenient. Fixed pfCTL is unable to retrieve state creator list in certain circumstances. The fixed loader.conf may be missing loader.conf files, so loader.conf.lua may not be passed. Fixed proxy variables in the contrib. Contents are improperly formatted, so there's a lot of sanitation fixes in 2.8. Fixed resize win occasionally gets fed spurious line feeds over certain serial console client combinations, and they've fixed panic accessing sysctl ORD net.inet.ip.nh dispatch with invariance kernel. Sure that is. PHP, so obviously this has been upgraded to 8.2 to 8.3. But they have fixed some cookie name ID prevents forms being loaded and saved. Extensions directory is not set in RC PHP ini setup. So that's not a PHP issue. That's a bug in pfSense. Change to update PHP to 8.3. Fixed check DNS available, failing even when DNS is available. We fixed PHP error display formatting issues, so code being displayed without being properly sanitized. Fixed memory leak in pfSense module function. pfSense get interface addresses. PPP interfaces. So fixed PPPoE1 loses IPv4 addresses on IPv6 layer down events. And they've added support for the new IF_PPPoE kernel module for the new PPPoE support. They've updated the package system, allow overriding text scrolling during package install. Oh, finally. Fixed extra space in package configuration. Fixed updates fail against authenticated upstream proxy. Fixed package navigation menus can be duplicated when reinstalling the package. I've never noticed that, to be honest. Fixed the package posted source script does not run with a system upgrade on ZFS. Interesting. Change package no longer supports the Alt ABI manually at runtime. Packet captures. Fixed unable to perform packet captures on tail scale interface in GUI with default settings. I know exactly what that is. Added allow filtering packet captures by system defined protocols. For routing, they've fixed ICP v6 path MTU discovery breaks with MPT. The fixed IPsec VTA static routes may not be added after the system boots, and the fixed routes with IPv6 addresses as the next hop for IPv4 destination causes kernel panics. So some important fixes there. They've added support for NAT64. I'm not really going to cover that. It's not something I use. Obviously, the idea of IPv6 is everything has its own IP address, but if for some reason you want to use NAT, you can. Added kill states using the pre-NAT address. They've changed add global option to set default PF state policy to interface bound versus floating. They've added the per rule option to set the PF state policy to interface bound versus floating. Fixed outbound NAT rules using an alias without a matching address family created unexpected PF rules. I've never noticed that one either. Fixed advanced rule options tooltip does not show negated tag option. Added to show the details of system aliases in the tooltip on firewall and NAT rule lists. That's quite a good addition as well. Fixed egress state remain killing states for scheduled rules. Interface-bound state policy does not handle IPsec VTI traffic as expected when filtering on ENC0. Fixed per rule byte counter values across lost across filter reload. And fixed separate positions are incorrect when copying interface group on rules. Minor inconvenience. They've added the GUI option to change default SCTP state timeouts. Fixed set port forwarding interface to an interface group select an invalid destination. Fixed SCTP states not purged, causing subsequent SCP init to be blocked. Fixed incorrect rule may be open for editing after rule order has changed. These just various interface fixes. Deleting or adding a firewall rule may result in unexpected rule order. Fixed potential cross-site scripting in firewall schedules. So looks like they've concentrated on a lot of cross-site scripting, but I believe these was pointed out by a security researcher. Fixed input validation prevents creating port forwards for the same port using different address families. And the fixed firewall rules using interface subnet aliases may prevent filter rules from loading after upgrades. Smart, just change the query of the smart data. SNMP, so fixed an issue with file descriptor leaks. Services, fixed NTP option DNS resolution has no effect when using NTP pool host names. Setup wizard, they've changed the error handling in the setup wizard, which was very user unfriendly. System logs, added separate IDS, IPS, and link local firewall log entries. Traffic shaper limiters. So under traffic shaping, the fixed input validation error when applying limiter changes. Setting a limiter queue length greater than 100 prevents a limiter from loading. And they fix that you cannot add limiters named new. They fixed packets are passed through dumbienet twice when using the route to, leading to half the expected bandwidth. They fixed fragmented packets and delayed by limiters are lost, and reply to traffic on secondary one may be dropped and passed through dumbienet. And another PHP error when the queue is added with the same name as the limiter. UPnP, fixed port forward rules created by minute UPnPD do not expire. Update UPnP, IGD, and PCP GUI text. Make stun port optional. So in the upgrade process itself, the fixed upgrading an EFI system installed to ZFS mirror does not upgrade EFI loader on additional disks, as we've mentioned, and the consequences of that. Link to release information on the system update page, and bootloader is not upgraded on UFS installs. The user manager. Users with deny config write privilege can trigger some VLAN interface operations. So that's been fixed. Users with deny config write privilege can trigger some Q&Q interface operations. CLI password check exits with write access error when checking read only. Another PHP error when user access is denied to the dashboard. Fixed users with deny config write privilege can trigger login operations, and users with deny config write can also change their own password, so that's been fixed as well. Virtual IP addresses. Service not stopped after deleting proxy ARP type virtual IP addresses, and fixed network broadcast address input validation is incorrectly applied. Wake on LAN, we fixed another cross-site scripting in Wake on LAN widget. Under the web interface, they've added overflow scrolling to top navigation drop-down menus, custom message text for login screen, fixed some messages presented users contain relative links to pages which may be invalid when triggered from certain packages. Changed update vendor files. Fixed status interfaces is missing several values for SFP modules. Removed jQuery tree grid unit testing files. Added 50X and 404 error handling to the GUI web server configuration. Removed deprecated HTTP 1.0. Now use minified MVD3 vendor files. Update Nginx HTTP2 syntax. And the fixed incorrect color button in the text with disabled rows. Finally, Under XML RPC, secondary node attempts to delete the admins group when synchronizing accounts via XML RPC, and the fixed changes to the admins user group are not synced to the secondary node. So there's a lot of, excuse me. So there's a lot of changes here, and a lot of them are input validation type of rules, but there are a few extra functionalities. So the PPPoE interface kernel module will be of interest to a few people. With that out of the way, let's head over to a 2.7.2 system and try and do an upgrade and see how that goes. Okay, we're in the dashboard, and you can see my BIOS is core boot because I'm on APU2 PC engines, and I'm doing this because I want to see how this works in the update, because I've got a few of these out with clients. So, system on the latest release. Let's get the update status. Okay, 2.8 is available. Now, I have had issues with pfSense before where it's not recognized the updates properly. So if you go into system and update, if it doesn't appear for you, you just might need to change it to current stable version and then check it that way. And then we can confirm the update here. If it still doesn't appear at that stage, go into update settings and then just make sure that you have it set to the latest branch. And with that, we'll go ahead and do the update and see what happens. Right, before we do this, I recommend that you take a backup first and then remove any packages. I say I've done a previous video that shows how to upgrade from an old version of pfSense to new, and I've removed the packages on that. I'm not expecting too many problems. The things that usually break it is PHP. Going from 8.2 to 8.3 shouldn't really break things, but you might as well be on the safe side, especially if you're doing it remotely. So go into backup and restore and then take a backup. So I don't want to skip packages because I want to back up what packages we have got installed. I'm not bothered about the data. This include extra data. If you hit this information icon here, if you want to remember your DHCP leases for version 6 as well, and also captive portal vouchers, you're going to want to tick that. I'm not really bothered in this case. Backup SSH keys and encrypt the file if you're downloading it somewhere you don't trust. So we'll go ahead and download the backup. We've got that. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into System, Package Manager, and remove the packages. So I've got ArtWatch installed. I'll just delete that. Confirm. Back to install packages. I've got cron. Am I using that for anything? Services, cron. Yeah, so updating the ArtWatch, and I've got my scrubbing the pfSense boot pool. So we'll want that back, definitely. But let's go to System, Package Manager, and remove that as well. So bye-bye. Success. So you may be okay. I've got client OpenVPN client export. Let's say you might be all right because it's only a minor 8.2 to 8.3 version of PHP. I'm being familiar with PHP. I can't see too many breaking packages. If a future packages come out that a future update that comes out that upgrades to 8.4, you're probably definitely going to want to follow this procedure because PHP 8.4 has a lot of changes that can break a lot of things to do with types, return types and things. Okay. One thing to note, I did have WireGuard installed. I am connected locally. If you have WireGuard installed, every update I've done, I've pretty much removed all packages except WireGuard when I've been doing it remotely. and that's survived just fine. So didn't actually need to remove WireGuard, especially if you're doing it remotely, because you'll lock yourself out. With that, let's go back into system, update, and let's do this. So go ahead and hit confirm. It's thinking about it. You see it wafting about the top. Okay. So it's downloading about 430 meg to be downloaded. These are packages though. And pfSense base as well, so yeah. Just over a 400 meg download. I'll just pause this here while it does this. Is not much point in waiting for this. So it downloaded DRM. You can see it's installed packages to be upgraded. pfSense kernel 2.7.2 to 2.8.0, so pfSense core. Just going ahead and doing that now. Okay, we're doing a reboot, so I am connected to the console, though. Let's see what happens. Hopefully this goes fine. So you can see I'm on a PC Engine's APU2. This is just a standard way of FreeBSD booting. If you've not seen all this stuff, scroll past before. Removing vital flag from PHP82. So now it's just updating package first. Obviously, package is just what FreeBSD uses for updating installed packages if you're not building them from source. So when it said upgrading package, that took a few minutes. And I mean, like literally 2 or 3 minutes. And I thought it hung for a second. You can see it's updated the boot code here. We've only got one drive in here, but it has updated the boot code successfully. And then the system's rebooted. This is also taking a minute. So yeah, reboot process might take a few minutes. Obviously, it's doing a major operating system upgrade. Interestingly, it says 2.7.2 release. I'm assuming it'll reboot again after this, or they've just not updated the banner. Again, that took a minute, so don't be impatient when you're doing this. And there we go with the PHP updates. See Python being updated there. So at this stage, we're up to package 48 out of a total of 232. The NSS certificate update took a while then. And by a while, I mean, that was going for a good 5 minutes. So don't panic. So far, this whole update process has probably taken about 10 minutes. We're probably closer to about 15, to be honest. And this does have, even though it's an MSATA SSD in it, it does have a SSD in it. So it's took 15 minutes, roughly, on a APU2 of an SSD. So obviously, if you're using a mechanical hard drive with spinning platters, take a bit longer as well. I did notice the FreeBSD 15 banner then, so. Okay, welcome to pfSense 2.8.0. So now we're just at the standard boot stage, initializing the interfaces. And as you can see in the background, the web interface did reload itself. And if that wasn't filtered out, we did get the startup beep. So with that, we should be good to log in. So I'll try that. God, what did I set the password to? Just password. Okay, now to get our packages back. So you'll remember, before I started, I took a backup and I removed all the packages. So now we have successfully gone from 2.7.2 to 2.8.0. And as you'll notice, this is running FreeBSD 15 current. So let's go and restore the config. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to browse for my configuration file. I'm just going to hit restore configuration. Are you sure you want to? Yes. So the system has just rebooted, as you've heard. The firewall is now rebooting. So I'll pull up the console so we can see what is actually happening. So now we're back on the console. So I'll go ahead and refresh this. Log back in again. Remember what the password was? So I say I've done a video on this previously, and you notice we have this banner across the top. Packages are being reinstalled in the background. Do not make changes in the GUI until this is complete. So if this above message is still displayed after a couple of hours, use a clear package lock button on the diagnostics backup and restore page and reinstall the package manually. I'm not expecting too many problems. We can do when changing IP addresses and things like that, but this should be all fine. So I'll just give this a few minutes. So I just waited a few minutes. That message won't go away on its own, but if there's still an issue, the next time you log in, that message will stay there. I've literally just hit refresh. There's a couple of issues there. See if my packages are back. Yeah. So you can see these are the original packages I had. Removing them first, just especially if you're doing an upgrade remotely, really does make sure that it goes smoothly. Because if you get any PHP errors with packages that depend on PHP, it can prevent the system from booting. And if you're remote, it's going to give you a bit of an issue. So that's done. And the information should still be there. So if I go into cron, my both my zpool scrub and artwatch update entries are still there. So that seems to have gone fairly smooth. So you can also install packages using the system package manager, and I recently did a video on this. And if you want to install it, go to package manager, available packages. I can't remember what it's called, patch. Yeah, system patches. So we can install that. And this is how you can install patches between releases of pfSense. As I say, I have covered this in a previous video quite detailed. But I might as well just install it. It's good to have installed. It only takes a few minutes. Once you've done that, you'll notice under the system menu, we now have this patches. And if we scroll down, there's none here. Now there's none here because I'm on 2.8.0. If you're on 2.7.2, there'll be a bunch of them there and you can apply them manually. So just keep an eye on here for any future patches coming out. Check it once a month or whatever. It's always good practice, and it's I don't know why it's not built into pfSense core straight from boot. It should be. So you can always check for patches here and add them as needed. But this one is perfectly up to date. So with that whole upgrade was probably about 20 minutes. Obviously I'm talking and explaining my way through things, so it took me a bit longer than it normally would. But if I run a remote upgrade, I'd be more than happy to give it 30 minutes before getting back online. It did take a while. If you are using the PPPoE, I did mention we'd have a look where it was, and if we go under System, Advanced, imagine it'll be under Networking, did they say? Scroll down to the bottom. We have this this new if_PPPoE kernel module for the PPPoE client, and enabling that should make things run a lot faster for you. So this change does require a reboot. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do normal reboot. There's a boot beep. And now we can go ahead and log back in again. And we'll just double check that that stayed enabled. So advanced, networking, scroll to the bottom. And yeah, so that's pretty much all you need to do to enable that. And you should have considerably faster internet speeds over PPPoE. While I'm here, I might as well have a look at this Kea DHCP stuff that's been added. So we're still under advanced where we set the if PPPoE kernel module. We're going to set that to Kea DHCP. Scroll back down and hit save. We'll just take a quick look at that now. If we go into services, DHCP server, you can see we're on the Kea one here. Under advanced options, yeah, that's pretty much the same. But what we want to look at is this custom JSON configuration. Now, I'll leave this link in the description below. But if we look at the Kea DHCP options, they can be specified as JSON. So you can specify the name, or you can like use the code, so code 43 for vendor encapsulated options. And this is how you can set up TFTP servers, but you'll notice the configuration is JSON. So it's in the JSON format. Now you can still do this yourself by applying this similar type of format. So as we have here, so you can apply this similar type of format by copying it and pasting it into this JSON configuration box here. That's what that's for. I haven't played with it properly, so I will have a look at Kea DHCP at some time in future. But I just wanted to have a look and explain what that field was for. And there we have the pfSense 2.8.0 upgrade from 2.7.2. What was quite funky about this video as well, I was doing it for myself. I'm using a PC Engine's APU2 here, and I would say we've got a few clients have them, and I wanted to make sure I did this in a proper test environment and there was no issues with it. And I'm now quite happy to go ahead and start upgrading client systems. I'm still going to give it a week or two and just keep an eye on reports, what people have been saying. Interestingly, I think the very first video that I did about 5 years ago was with this same PC Engines unit. And I'm pretty sure it's the very same unit that I did the very first video on YouTube a few years ago on how to install pfSense over a serial console. So that's kind of funky that this is that same device. If you like this video and you found it useful, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you hit the like button, it will help others that are looking to upgrade pfSense. I know this has been a bit of a longer video than usual. I'm going to fast forward a few bits, but I wanted to keep it kind of in line with what to expect when you're doing this on a live system. So again, if you like the video, please hit the like button, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be back soon.